Hey, beautiful! So today, we're talking about all the upcoming Wuthering Waves character banners, along with their latest kits. But before we jump into everything, there's a giveaway going on right now. All you have to do is like this video and leave a comment down below. Alright, let's get into version 3.6. According to the latest info, Phase 1 is expected to feature Qingxiao alongside Denia. Now, we already have Qingxiao's kit details, and I know what some of you are probably thinking after seeing that giant wall of text. She looks ridiculously complicated. Honestly, I thought the exact same thing. But after reading through everything a couple of times, she's actually much easier to understand. The easiest way to think about Qingxiao is that she has two different modes, and your entire rotation revolves around switching from one into the other. At the beginning of her rotation, she's building two resources called Qin Spirit and Sword Soul. Qin Spirit comes from her sheathed attacks, while Sword Soul comes from her unsheathed attacks. Now before you say, so do I have to keep manually switching stances? Nope. Her attack string already switches between sheathed and unsheathed attacks automatically, and even her resonance skill changes depending on which part of the combo you're in. So you're naturally filling both resources just by playing her normally. Here's where it gets interesting. Once both gauges are full, you use her heavy attack, Stringed Sword, which consumes both resources and pushes her into Ephemeral Immortal. This is basically her powered-up state. Now, instead of building Qin Spirit and Sword Soul, she starts building an entirely new resource called Mind Blade Intent through her enhanced basic attacks and dodge counter. Tired of paying full price? Why not use LD Shop? LD Shop offers huge discounts up to 30% off on Wuthering Waves and almost everything you can buy in your favorite gacha games. For example, new users can get the 6,480 Lunites pack for just $72, saving around $27. They also support self-top-up, making the process easy, fast, and secure. Let me show you how it works. Simply choose the item you want, complete the payment, and click Self-Top-Up. You'll receive your items within minutes. LD Shop also has excellent reviews on Trustpilot, so you can top up with confidence. And here's the best part. New users get 15% off, plus an extra 5% discount when you use my special link. So don't miss out. Click the link in the description and start saving with LD Shop today. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean she'll be harder to play. Honestly, once you understand the gameplay loop, she actually looks pretty straightforward. Now, you might be wondering, where does her Resonance Liberation fit into all of this? Surprisingly, it doesn't look like her main source of damage. From the current info, it seems to simply deal arrow damage while activating Serene Heart, a buff that empowers the rest of her rotation. So instead of being the big payoff itself, her liberation is more like the button that helps set up her strongest combo. Then, once Mind Blade Intent is full, you unlock Tianjun Exorcism. This is her big finisher. It consumes all of that resource, deals a massive arrow hit, ends her powered-up mode, and then you're back to building Qin Spirit and Sword Soul all over again. But hold on, that's not the only thing she's managing. Qingxiao also applies a debuff called Mind Lock to enemies. Think of it as a stacking mark. The more Mind Lock stacks an enemy has, the stronger Qingxiao's main damage skills become. She also has a couple of nice bonus mechanics that make the whole rotation smoother. Her intro skill immediately gives her Sword Soul and guarantees that her next resonance skill also generates Qin Spirit, so she gets a head start on filling both gauges whenever she swaps in. On top of that, she has Protective Sword Light, which basically acts like built-in protection. Certain abilities give her defensive stacks, and if she gets hit, one stack is consumed to reduce the damage she takes and prevent her from getting interrupted. That's actually pretty useful since her combo looks fairly long, and getting knocked out of it would probably feel terrible. So if I had to explain her kit in one sentence, it'd be this. Build Qin Spirit and Sword Soul, then enter Ephemeral Immortal, then build Mind Blade Intent, then use your finisher, then repeat, while keeping Mind Lock stacked on enemies. Once you look at it like that, her kit is honestly pretty straightforward. The names make it sound complicated, but the gameplay loop itself is actually very clean. Now moving over to 3.6 Phase 2. We're currently expecting Jingran alongside an Iuno rerun. But here's the catch. According to Seal, there's actually another rerun slot that hasn't been revealed yet. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if it's either Morny or Shorekeeper, but that's just my own speculation, so don't take it as confirmation. Now let's talk about Jingran. The easiest way to think about him is that he has two stances, positive yang and negative yin, and your entire gameplay revolves around constantly switching between them. He actually starts the fight in positive yang, where he has one version of his normal attacks and resonance skill. After switching to negative yin, those attacks are replaced with a different version. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, so am I manually changing stances? Well, kind of. You don't switch whenever you want. Instead, your heavy attacks are what swap you between yin and yang. Here's where it gets interesting. As you're attacking in either stance, you're constantly building a resource called Qi. Your normal attacks, dodge counters, resonance skills, intro skill, and even your resonance liberation all help generate Qi. Once you have enough, you can use your heavy attack. If you're in positive yang, your heavy attack becomes grounding, which spends Qi and switches you into negative yin. If you're in negative yin, your heavy attack becomes soul seizure, which also spends Qi but swaps you back into positive yang. So unlike Qingxiao, where you're building toward one transformation, Jingran's gameplay is all about constantly bouncing back and forth between both stances to keep his rotation going. But hold on, that's not the only resource he's managing. Jingran also has something called Life Ember. Think of this as his stamina or life force. Almost every attack he performs consumes Life Ember, while his heavy attacks restore it. If you let it get too low, he starts getting weaker, and if it completely runs out, he actually takes more damage. Now, you might be wondering, where does his resonance liberation fit into all of this? Interestingly, it immediately gives Jingran Qi, grants him another special resource called Path, and puts him into a powered-up state called Fluctuating Star. During this state, his heavy attacks summon extra spirits to attack alongside him, and he even gains bonus attack based on his max HP. So his liberation is less about one huge hit, and more about making the rest of his rotation much stronger. He also has another mechanic called Ghost Shield, and honestly, this is what surprised me the most. Jingran actually wants his teammates to generate shields. Whenever they do, he builds Ghost Shield, and when he swaps onto the field with his intro skill, he consumes all of it to gain a massive melt damage bonus. On top of that, Jingran can also generate his own shields through his intro skill and resonance skills, giving him a bit more survivability while he's performing his combos. Now, after version 3.6, let's look a little further ahead because this is where things start getting a bit confusing. According to the current info, version 3.7 is expected to introduce Xin and Swarming. But honestly, out of every upcoming character we've talked about today, Xin is probably the hardest one to figure out. And the reason is simple. The sources don't agree with each other. I've already seen people saying she's going to be a main DPS. Then you'll read another source saying she's actually a sub DPS. And before you say, well, one of them has to be wrong, I'm not even sure that's the case. Here's why. One of the older info mentioned that Xin wouldn't really be a traditional main DPS at S0R1. At first, that sounded pretty strange, but after the latest information came out, I started looking at it a little differently. The newest info mentioned that Xin has two different modes. One is centered around Electro Flare, while the other revolves around an entirely new Toon Break mechanic. Now, here's the catch. Nobody has actually explained what those two modes do yet, so we're kind of filling in the blanks right now. Personally, I think there's a chance both of those older and newer info can actually be true at the same time. If this info is accurate, what if Electro Flare is her damage-focused mode, while Toon Break shifts her into a more supportive playstyle? That would explain why some people are calling her a main DPS, while others are calling her a sub-DPS. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly how she'll work, but honestly, it would make a lot of sense. And if Crow actually goes in that direction, I think Xin could end up being one of the most flexible characters in the game. Instead of being locked into one team like we've seen with a lot of other characters, she'd have multiple ways to be played depending on what your account needs. Personally, I think that's way more exciting than just getting another character that does one thing really well. As for teammates, that's where things get even more interesting. I could definitely see Electro Flare working alongside Electro Rover, but the Toon Break side, honestly, I have no clue. Since it's described as an entirely new toon mechanic, it probably isn't meant to work exactly like any of the current archetypes. Maybe it'll synergize with Qingxiao or future toon-based characters. Or maybe Kuro is creating a completely new team style that we haven't even seen yet. That's just me connecting the dots though, so don't flame me in the comments if I'm completely wrong. Now let's talk about Swarming because, unfortunately, we know a lot less about her. She's currently expected to be a 5-star Havoc Rectifier, and the biggest thing mentioned about her is that she's connected to Echo mechanics while filling that 3rd slot role. To me, that immediately sounds like Kuro is planning another dedicated support, either for the current Echo-focused teams, or maybe even for characters that haven't been released yet. What's interesting is that the current info don't really focus on her damage at all. Instead, almost everything points toward her utility. And honestly, that makes me even more curious. Support characters usually age really well in Wuthering Waves, so I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up being more valuable than people expect. One thing we do know, though, she fights using an umbrella, so even if we barely know anything about her kit, her animations already sound like they're going to be pretty unique. As for reruns, I honestly think Yuki has one of the highest chances of returning during version 3.7, although that's still just speculation for now. Looking a little further ahead, the current info say version 3.8 will be centered around Hejin's domain expansion. Alongside that, we're expected to get one brand new 5-star female character and one new 4-star Spectro male. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering who that new 5-star could be. Personally, I have a feeling she might be from the new Federation. There's nothing confirming that yet, but it just feels like the direction Kuro could take after everything we've seen recently. We'll just have to wait and see. And finally, if we jump all the way into the 4.x patches, there are already information mentioning characters like Verena SP, Calcaro SP, Fusion Rover, and a few others. Now remember, these are very early information, so I wouldn't get too attached to any of them just yet. Characters get delayed, kits get changed, and sometimes they disappear completely. But if we get more reliable information or anything changes, you already know I'll make a video covering everything as soon as possible. So now I want to hear from you guys. Which character are you saving for right now? Let me know down in the comments. And if you have watched till the end, you are a legend.